We call it people technology.
Unbelievable. Would you believe that we had the highest score batting first in the second leg of the IPL? We thought CSK would just cruise to victory. We spent the entire mid-inning show on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Riggin for T20 timeout, only discussing one team. Well, Rajasthan Royals have just reminded us there is one more team in this. They have absolutely gunned down the target of 190. They have propelled themselves in the points table. They've sent a real message to the rest of the teams competing for a playoff spot. Don't take us lightly. Carlos Brathwaite and Deep Dasgupta look back at an extraordinary chase. And tonight's the night for young Indian players. Deep Dasgupta, Ruturaj Gaikwad, Yashasvi Jaiswal, Shivam Dubey on his first appearance. What a chase that was.
That absolutely brilliant. Yashasvi, Shivam Dubey. Well, we've seen him in like domestic cricket, so to say, but never
Yeah.
like this in this kind of form in IPL. I mean, this is absolutely brilliant. You know what I really liked about Shivam is if you think of him in the IPL and his shots, it would be predominantly mid wicket, mid on, slogging. But today, the best part was he scored a lot of his runs through covers, extra cover, and offside. So it wasn't like slogging. It was like proper cricketing, orthodox cricketing shots. It's good to see Shivam Dubey bat like that, and obviously Yashasvi Jaiswal as well. He was absolutely brilliant and a proper team effort. Everyone's
Hmm.
contributed 20, 30, whatever. It's proper team effort.
Carlos Brathwaite said at halftime that if Evan Lewis gets a quick 30 ball 50, 80 or 70, that's their best chance of coming close to this target. What a start that was, Carlos. It pretty much left CSK stunned. 77 for the opening wicket in just over 5 overs.
Yeah, how wrong was I? Yashashvi Jaiswal, what a knock. What a knock. If you look at that opening partnership, you'd swear Evan Lewis would be the person to take the attack to the bowlers. But he came out, he outbatted, outgunned Evan Lewis, and that's not something that you say for much batters, even when he does it with Chris Gayle. So what a knock from him. The composure, the poise in which he played with. But Shivam Dubey was equally as impressive for me to come in and keep the momentum up the way that he did, and then to finish the game the way that he did. You talk about going up through the gears to have a good batting tempo. He successfully come back down once the game was less than a run a ball and were in Rajasthan's hands. He was able to tone his stroke, play down a bit, and walk to his 50, and then get his team over the line with a red inker, as we say in the Caribbean, and come not out. So his knot was equally as impressive for me as was Jaiswal.
Yeah, I mean, how hard do you think it was, Carlos? We've been calling it for so many days. Deep, you've been saying it. Sanjay's been saying it on our show. What are Rajasthan doing? Keeping players on the bench. You can't be that much worse than those that weren't getting you anything in the middle. And he spent an entire season on the bench. He's still a big money player, Carlos, and he's hit the ground running in his first game. That must be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, that's me wrong again. You don't expect players to come in to muddled, and I say that with all due respect to the team and to the players. But obviously, I think it changed from 4, 5, and 6, something like that. You don't expect players to just jump into a middle order and hit the ground running the way that they did. Glenn Phillips come in for his first game. He was actually in the stands. In the last game, I saw him with his girlfriend in the stands, not even in the 18. And to come out and walk with the kind of swagger that he had and play the type of finishing knock that he did, Dubey, Sanjay would be hands raised, fists pumped. He's been calling for him for a few games now. And for him to step out into the park and do what he did in the way that he did it, yeah, I never expected it to be such a clinical performance. So yeah, kudos to them. It's just for me now to see next game how much tinkering you do, if any, or can you try to give this team a solid few games together and see if they can get you to the final four.
I mean, you've got Mumbai and Kolkata next up for Rajasthan. You used to say that they might win both after a game like this, but if I just come back to Shivam Dubey first, Deep, such a big reputation, went for decent money for RCB, had a torrid season with them, picked up for decent money again at the auction, and found his way out of the team in this second leg. So you think this is a innings of vital personal significance too for Shivam Dubey with the big auction coming up?
Huge, huge. Because again, I mean, I think he would have found a template how to go about things. I remember him scoring a 50 for India as well, if I'm not wrong, a year ago, year and a half ago. Again, he came out to bat at four. In the first leg as well, he did all right, I thought, for Rajasthan when he was coming out and batting at number four. So I don't know what happened with this 4.5 months break, and he wasn't playing in the second leg at all. And but you know what? Every time I saw him out there, even though he wasn't playing in the games before this, and I saw him training really hard. And if you look at him, it seems like he's become fitter, he's leaner. I'm sure all that hard work has come good in this game, and more so, I think just the fact that he did not bat like a slogger. He batted like a normal number four batter, and you see his wagon wheel, and you figure out what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad we got you on the show, Deep, because you follow so much of India's domestic cricket. Yashasvi Jaiswal looked like he was better, severely undercooked for the IPL last
Yeah.
season. Found his way out of the Rajasthan Royals team. This season, we brought up some numbers in a previous game too, that among the other struggles for Royals, but Jaiswal's boundary hitting seems to have gone up, and he's hitting the likes of Hazelwood and Sam Curran, international quality bowlers, with ease. What have you noticed about Jaiswal that's different, just in terms of his shot making and his power game?
I think Ronak, if you remember last time around, it just seemed like he wasn't ready for it. He was late on balls. I mean, you could see that he wasn't in position to play any kind of shot. And this season, and especially this leg, even first leg, I don't think he got too many games. But this leg, it just seems like a different batter. I think he's getting into position a lot early. I think he's realized that he has to be a little more handsy at this level if he wants to play shots. So if you see his footwork isn't as much as it was maybe last time, or but he's getting into better shapes. He's putting himself in better shapes to play those shots. And what I've also noticed, I think, is he's figured out his go-to shots. So if you see, a lot of his boundaries would be typical left-hander square of the wicket, using the angle and stuff like that, off the back foot. And those things, I think, you learn with experience. You learn your game, and I think what has happened is Yashasvi's found out what his game is. He's not trying to play all around the park. He's just picking up the right deliveries, picking up the right shots, and figuring out what he's good at.
Yes, you're right, absolutely right. He did start for the first four games for the Royals. They went with Stokes at the top of the order and Butler and whatnot. The absence of all that, Carlos, we're now seeing a team who literally had their backs to the walls. They were seventh going into this game, and we thought, all right, these guys are going to join the Sunrisers sooner rather than later. And this result, the manner of this result, it raises a couple of questions. One, of course, if this is just an aberration, can Rajasthan repeat this in two more games to come? And second, why did you have to wait this long? If you could do this, why not do it before you're significantly at odds, to make the playoffs?
Well, that word on Jaiswal and Shivam Dube, especially Shivam Dube, I find, and it's happened to me in the past, where you go home and you try to replicate the intensity of being with the international team or a franchise to the level of an IPL, um, and it's very difficult to do unless you have players of similar caliber and you're pushing each other hard. But trying to replicate that intensity is difficult. However, with Dubé coming in, being on the bench for the first few games, he would have had that intensity at practice. So he would not have been as match ready, but he would have come into this tournament or this leg of the tournament a lot sharper than potentially just coming from practicing with his coach or with his mates at home and then into high level and starting the tournament. So it probably did him the world of good to actually be on the sidelines, get that intensity up, and then be able to come and hit the ground running. I played for Sunrisers and was out for the first 6 or 7 games, but you're able to hit extra balls, you're able to do a lot more technical work, and then when you get on the park, you feel as though you're a more well-oiled machine, you feel as though you're ready to go, you just need to get up to speed. And that may be the case that they're probably peaking at the right time, and I'm sure that they would hope that. But I love the fact that, a couple players got long runs, um, and you're just hoping now that these guys that performed well, that they'll be afforded the same luxuries. That bodes well for a franchise, in my opinion.
Now, looking at how this result has gone, Carlos, are you at all going to, if you're CSK, going to say this could happen to us in a playoff? So, should we look at what we've got wrong here? Should we say we could have gotten more than 190? We had wickets in hand. Ambati Rayudu, Suresh Raina, even Moeen Ali between them. It seemed like they just lost their way in the middle. Or can you just say, "Nah, batting was fine. We had a good enough score. Wasn't our bowlers' night, was their night, so we leave it aside." How would you look at this if you were CSK, Carlos?
Well, from never played under Dhoni, but from all the chatter that comes out from all the players that's worked with him and played under him, I'm sure it'll be just scrapped down as well played Rajasthan. Sometimes you have to hold your hands up and give the opposition credit. Rajasthan played a very clinical second innings to walk the game home. Started well in the power play. I think they got 80 or 81, losing one wicket. You seldom ever get that, and it's not as though you were bowling players that weren't bowling. Yeah, the bowlers weren't like poor quality or new. Asif probably got one over, and he's a quality bowler. In his right, it was Hazelwood, Sam Curran, and international quality bowlers. So at some points in time, you have to look at yourself as a team. You got 189, highest score in this leg so far. It also shows the pitch was good. Um, but then you have to say, well, if your team got it with 2 overs to spare, we didn't bowl as well as we wanted to, which can happen. And they'll probably more be thinking they're happy that they got this bad performance with the ball out of the way, with Bravo to come back in for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't think that they'll bowl this badly again.
Yeah, so you'd go with that, Deep, that this is more about CSK's bowling not being up to mark. And like Carlos says,
Yeah.
no Dwayne Bravo, no Deepak Chahar as well. And not about, oh, could we have gotten more with the bat?
I'd go with what Carlos just said. I think 189 was good enough. I think you'll always have these, few dot balls here or an innings which didn't take off. But I think end of the day, just a bad day at office for the bowlers. And you know what? Every tournament, every team in every tournament would have one game in them like this, and I'm sure they'll be glad that it's over and done with. It's out of the way, and they can every now and then you need also a game like that when you are in such a good form like CSK is in, and just to get a reality check and a kick up your backside, and and making you start focus again, and figuring out things like this can happen.
Okay, can this happen for the Rajasthan Royals then? It's momentum. Carlos Brathwaite talks about momentum for a team. They've got Mumbai and Kolkata to come. If they win those, they'll get to 14, and Mumbai and Kolkata will not. They're competing then with the Punjab Kings, and they're tied, locked almost on net run rate with KL Rahul's side. Brathwaite, looking at how this day has gone, Mumbai Indians are now relegated to seventh place on the points table. So can Rajasthan do this two more times? And do you fancy them making the playoffs just with the manner in which they won today?
History
Well,
has a habit
well,
of repeating itself. Sorry, Deep or myself?
No, Carlos. Yes, Carlos, please, please.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I was saying history has a thing of repeating itself, and if you look at historical evidence, you would have to give Mumbai Indians the edge. They're not as bad as they currently are for consistent periods, and likewise, unfortunately for Rajasthan, they aren't as good as they were today on a consistent basis. So you'd have to give Mumbai the edge. But I know that game, that playoff between Rajasthan and Mumbai could eventually show you where that fourth spot will be headed.
Fair point, Deep. But looking at how Mumbai played today, of course, if they win both their games, they're hoping that KKR drop points. That is taking a real beating for the Mumbai Indians this season too. So let's leave the playoff race out. Let's talk about Rajasthan. Can they possibly win two more at the back of this result? And then we'll see about the other results. But can they beat Mumbai and Kolkata? Do you think they're good enough?
listen, they are good enough. Obviously, I think that they have the resources, they have the players with the potential, but are they going to be consistent enough? That's the big question. I mean, Rajasthan Royals have won games before, games like these in the past as well. Maybe different personnel, but obviously they have the personnel and they have the resources. But the biggest challenge for them would be to be consistent. I think the I mean, as you mentioned about, I mean, Carlos talking about momentum, or I think Bish would say confidence. I think what this game would do is give that confidence to those players in that dressing room, in that Rajasthan Royals dressing room, that they can actually play like this and beat, top of the table teams. So if they can do this to CSK, they can do this to Kolkata and Mumbai. So I think this game would give a lot of confidence. Uh, but listen, the biggest challenge with Rajasthan, not just this season, in the seasons in the past as well, is consistency, and that still, I believe, is a question mark, as good as they are.
All right. Well, they've got teams that are going to be competing for that spot. So tomorrow's a massive day in the IPL. Carlos Brathwaite, thank you so much. Set your alarms. I'll see you in the morning at 5 a.m. And Deep Dasgupta, you will finish off your duties in the afternoon game and join us for the second game. So, gentlemen, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. What a game we've had. And therefore, it sets up tomorrow quite nicely, where Punjab Kings have to win against RCB. Otherwise, you think they're going to be out of this. And similarly, Kolkata Knight Riders against Sunrisers at the bottom of the table. They can't afford a slip up either. So that's what the points table looks like. Mumbai are the big losers today. They had to win to keep matters in their hands. They could still qualify, but that net run rate's taken a beating. So if they get tied on net run rate with the KKR, who are significantly in the positives, then they could be looking at missing out on the playoffs just on that last column. But there's still a lot more to happen, and today's result has told us it's nothing's to be taken for granted. Crazy things can happen in the last few days in the league phase. Join us tomorrow on Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout, and we'll see how it goes between Punjab and Bangalore.
We call it people technology.